Hey, howdy, and how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another drawing video. And in this one, I had no idea what I was drawing. I was going to do a commentary even while opening with it and talk, but I didn't know what to say because I didn't really know what I wanted to draw. Just kind of messing around with brushes, seeing if I could find anything, painting with a color that I don't even know how I got. I think I just had it already and I just went with it. And I just started messing around, keeping in like the warmer stuff and just looking for anything. I felt like I saw a cave in here for a second. I was trying to find it, but the more I was like trying to outline it and shape it, the more I kept on losing it just because I was doing it with weird colors and it wasn't a good color to try to find a shape with anything. I should definitely just like use black and white instead of orange and red or any really darker contrasting colors instead of those. But for my last drawing video, people were saying like more rings would be cool, which I definitely do want to do. Some portrait would be cool, which I do agree with. And this kind of ended up being a portrait of some sort. I don't know if I would necessarily say it's a portrait of me, but I also don't know if like, if I could really say it's not a portrait of me, because I feel like in some way, all drawings are sort of a portrait of like my mind and like what I'm thinking and my ideas, which I feel like is a more accurate portrayal of a person than what they look like. So who knows? I'm sure I could classify it as that if I wanted to, but it doesn't really look like me. Right now it doesn't look like anything except a shape. But it is still weird because even though I wouldn't necessarily consider this like a portrait of me, it does still feel like kind of personable or personal, whichever one of those is correct. Maybe if they're both correct, that's great. But it does feel personal and like I'm almost exposing myself in some ways. And maybe I am. And maybe it just feels weird because I don't even fully know what I'm exposing completely. Or maybe it's because I have no real good reason for anything I drew in here, or really anything I do. So it feels like if anyone questions it, I have no idea why either. I guess to say I have no reasons is a bit of a stretch, but I don't know if I have good reasons. Even just like making this into a video feels really weird to me. When I did the rings, it kind of made sense. They were something I wore around. They were a part of like almost branding. You guys saw them in pictures. And I run into the same sort of problem whenever I post some of the art that I posted on Twitter of things that don't necessarily have a reason. They're just sort of me drawing whatever I feel like drawing and think would be interesting to draw or is even challenging to draw. And that's what I do. And it just feels weird to post it because I don't know what their point is. It's just the image I want to see. Sort of those thoughts that don't have words, just how the mind feels, which I guess when I put it that way, it makes more sense. I guess it's just sort of interesting to think about how a different mindset before going into something can change the outcome of it. Or maybe your perspective or setting specific standards, something like that. But it can change just how you feel about it whenever you set your standards at like a spot where it's not about the quality of your work. It's just about how much you do work in the amount of time. And obviously like the quality is something still important, but I guess not necessarily the focus of it. And I feel like I had that train of thought or like the way of thinking when I first started YouTube, and I definitely lost sort of that mentality. And drawing has brought it back, sort of revitalized that thinking, and definitely doing drawing videos and realizing that if I do something with standards and like these guidelines in place, that whenever I'm done with it, I'm usually more satisfied with what I did. Even in a case like this where I set out to do absolutely nothing and all I did was had a 2-hour time frame. I had freedom, but I also knew where I couldn't run past. It's definitely something that got lost the more and more I did YouTube because I just felt like all my time was free time and work time at the same time. So I just spent all day working on videos and uploading and then just doing it over and over again. I had my own field and I could graze anywhere I wanted. No fence in sight. That was fine for a bit because I was doing that for my own sake, and that was great, doing things with a time limit of getting them done in a certain amount of time, which is what a time limit is for those who don't know. But then I started doing it for the sake of the numbers, and I was doing it for the sake of growth and just the things that weren't really what I felt fulfilling or like really wanted to do from a channel. But I set this bar to have like a standard that wasn't really mine. I thought because of the position I was in with the numbers I had, with the type of content I did, I had to do things a certain way because I didn't know how else to do it. And the whole time I was just sort of challenging myself because I knew that daily uploads, I would get a video up every day. And that was all I cared about, is getting a video up every day. And then I started caring about the quality. And that's where it all went to shit. That's when the pressure started flowing in of like, oh, I got to do it like this because these people are doing like this and they have this many subs and stuff and get views. But I just tried to match the growth with the quality. But even though I was on like a steady path already, I just tried to crank it up way more than I was comfortable with, and was stuck in that uncomfortableness for so long, and without even realizing, which was the worst part, because my head was so stuck in the goddamn number. I do think it's funny though. I see a lot of people wanting to be YouTubers and streamers, and I feel like I definitely understand the appeal, especially from people that are working at jobs that they might not necessarily want to work at. The freedom that YouTube gives, or like streaming or whatever it could be, is like massive for people like that. But that looks like a face on accident. For someone like me who grew up with it, it almost feels like I need constraints and I need to like box myself in more. And I'm almost like the opposite, and it feels odd. I guess it's because I lost a lot of self-discipline, or maybe it's just because I need more self-discipline now that I have more to discipline. There's more around that I have to keep in control, so I need to be a bit stricter with discipline, but also more lenient, I guess, at the same time. Even if my self-discipline has gotten worse though, I used to be way worse at like even more things that I've gotten way better at. Probably. I don't know. I can't think of anything right now, but I'm sure. But everyone's a work in progress. I think as long as we're just working on it on our own scale, time frame, and etc. is the important thing. You know, making sure that the constraints that we put on ourselves are constraints that... Oops. But the constraints that we put on ourselves are constraints that we're comfortable with, and that they align with other constraints that are also in place. Like, you know, I can't expect to draw like 100% accurate representation of the Mona Lisa or recreation of the Mona Lisa if I give myself 30 minutes. I couldn't do it probably no matter how much time I gave myself. But the point stands, damn it. Because I find it often that I give myself constraints that just don't even fit within other constraints necessarily. I try to do something that's just not feasible with doing other things in the same thing. It's just I'm trying to fit too much, and like as much as I like Tetris, I should know I can obviously only fit so much in an area before it all just disappears. Okay, maybe I'm taking a bit too far with using Tetris there, but for the most part I should know what fits where. I shouldn't try to cram it, dude. This commentary is pretty much just like this art. I had no idea what I was doing the whole time, but I am closing in on the amount of time that I was giving myself. This was like the last kind of thing in the initial 2-ish hours that I gave myself. I did do a quick finalizing, which I did more commentary over, which I don't know how I'm going to do because like I was saying in the beginning, I did a post commentary before I did the pre-commentary, did the post commentary. So I don't even know if like the things in the commentaries are going to overlap or not. So I might have to go back through it and clean it up, streamline it, do the etc. But this tree or whatever the hell, I mean, it's not like necessarily trees, kind of like roots. This shit came together real nice though. Honestly, I like how it all came together for the time that I had, and even when I break it down more, for the time I spent on the head, for the time I spent on the blobs, for the time I spent on the tree root, for the time I spent on the eye, you know, how much, depending on how much I break it down, I'm pretty happy with how I did it all, because a couple months ago, I might not have been able to. I merged the final layer before doing more, just so I can't change as much, to be honest. I obviously still be able to add, which is good because I do want to add more, but I won't be able to remove anything or change anything in the background. So what I see, bare minimum, is my new canvas essentially. But I just feel like there's still quite a bit of empty space and things that can be touched up and finalized. A little bit of highlights, just fill the space in, make it feel coherent. I think it's the right word. Make it just not feel like there's a random like blob of paint without intent. You know, like that, if I didn't finish it, this would have just been a green blob of paint, but with no intent. It would have had a future intent, but the intent wasn't a blob of paint. Something that was tough though, whenever coming back and doing these final touches, is just a whole different day that I'm doing them on. So I feel like I've just had the whole entire day of not doing them and just like sleeping to like think about additional things to do, and things change, things that I could finalize, things that blah, 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 you know, many different things I could do. But the main goal was to just make what I had feel more complete. I feel like there's like a minimal level I need to get at, or like be comfortable with, or just even know. I guess almost the minimal amount of work I can put in, or like the littlest I can focus on details while still getting the big picture across, or like showing what I mean to show without obsessing over the small things. The thing is I don't even want my drawings like that. I prefer kind of the messier look anyways. So I like how this one turned out. It definitely makes me want to try like oil painting or just painting in real life. I also think eventually that'd be a fun thing to do on the main channel, is doing like actual art challenges in real life. I feel like I really can do anything on either channel. I still question if me making another channel was even really needed, but I still think it was beneficial. I still think it helped. You know, if I want to try something or do a test, I can always try it over here and stuff. And I guess same with this drawing. You know, this is a test. I wanted to see what I could do, and this whole thing is a test, really. Like, this whole thing is just seeing how much I can make from nothing. Like, I don't know. I had a bunch of people telling me what they would like to see and a lot of good ideas of rings and an actual portrait. I'm thinking that this area here and like this area need to be closed up a little bit. So I'm thinking just 2 screws there. Maybe it can be as if the screws to screw my head on got locked in the goop. I have no idea. I haven't drawn much hardware stuff, I guess. I haven't drawn, you know, really any hammers or screws or nails. They're so like archaic in a sense, but still like the right tool for the job, you know? It's like, when is something better than the nail gonna come out? It's like, I wonder if that's what the screw was, but then people are just like, well, they actually still have uses sometimes where one's better than the other. They're just like, well, shit. Like, will there be something eventually better than the nail? Or is the nail just so simple that it can't be beaten? Same with the screw, really. You know, you got that, all that friction buildup, really helpful. I don't actually know when one would be more useful than the other, but I do know that Phillips are definitely my head of choice. So we're gonna make these Phillips screwdriver heads. So, because what's nice about a Phillips is, like, most of the time, you're like, you either have a Phillips or a flathead. A Phillips head that you actually have to deal with, it doesn't matter if you have a Phillips or a flathead screwdriver, you can most likely take care of it. But if you have a flathead screw that you gotta open up, and you might not have a flathead, you can't really do it with a Phillips. And that's trash. But also for that reason, flatheads are kind of nice to have around. What am I saying anymore? I like shading. I think I like doing dark shades more than I do light shades. I remember a while ago, I asked, like, is it the light or the shadow? I think it was in a Rainbow Six video. I asked if it was the light or the shadow that makes a picture, or like makes an image. I forget exactly what I said. It was something along the sort. And I still feel like it's the shadow that really makes an image. All right, so for the entrance point, we could just match how we did it on the head, which I don't think it would make as much sense in this. So we might just go with like smaller hole. Can't get a screw into a super big hole, you know. Kind of ruins the point of a screw. I also went in and added highlights to make it look like it was protruding and pulling out here, just to give it more of that depth effect, I guess. Did it work? It looks a bit weird, but let's pull out and see if it's even really noticeable. Not really. It sells it well enough. Screws are kind of fun to do. They're simple, but they're also complex. But I think the shading is kind of fun up top. I like drawing things that give me practice. Drawing things that I don't draw too often, or drawing things that I think would be challenging. I guess I like just drawing things that I don't draw too often, just because it gives me a challenge to do things. Plus, in drawing those, I can learn tricks and like different ways to do pretty much the same things that I already know how, but you know, I can find easier ways or different ways that might work better, ways that have an easier flow, ways that won't interrupt my process as much. And it's just like a good sort of discovery thing from trying to draw other things that you don't normally draw. You know, maybe I'll try drawing a bunch of instruments next, because I've never drawn instruments, and that might be kind of fun to see how wood curves and like focus on materials curving like that. And I did fruits because fruits were interesting because they're very simple but also incredibly detailed. And having this time constraint on me was also a massive help. You know, this is what 2 hours of me drawing gets, and I guess like I need to learn to accept that more, which is kind of what this video is me trying. Yeah, there's definitely feels like there's more that could be done. It definitely doesn't feel final, but I would say that for the 2 hour mark and trying to stop myself as much as possible and not doing too much more, even in the finalizing process, I think I'm pretty happy with 2 hours. For 2 hours, it's not bad. I want to do a proper portrait eventually, and this was like, I guess, sort of gonna start out as one. And then it was like, well, this isn't really a portrait. I didn't want to take a picture of myself and draw it. I just wanted to draw something, and I guess I just wanted to do like a time drawing just in general of something that I would draw or how I would draw and like end up with something. And that's sort of what this video was. I don't know. There's more, like I said, I would like to do with it and finish it up and do final touches, but with the 2 hour kind of time limit I gave myself, even though I did go a bit over, not as far as the other one though. I was more strict and I was like more aware of it. But this is kind of just like a brain drawing, I guess. Nothing really particular, just a whole bunch of ideas rattling around, and I'm sure, I guess, I don't know how to explain it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to see more, let me know. Like I'm planning on doing a portrait video for this channel, and then maybe later on do like I don't know. I have no idea. I'm trying just like to think of different ways to do art, because I want to do some on the main channel too. But I think for now I'm just going to try some more simple things on this one. Don't want to get too ahead of myself. But I do plan on doing like a more portraity one where I actually take a picture of myself, and I'll also probably put a time limit on myself for that. Otherwise, I just don't know when I would call it finished. And maybe in doing time limits, I'll eventually find a spot where I'm okay with it being finished. And then I also want to do more ring drawings. You guys wanted like a lot more rings drawn, so I'm probably going to do more videos where I draw rings. But for now, I'm at my limit.